Nobody was ready for what happened that day. It started like any normal morning. London was cold. The sky was gray. People were walking fast, some sipping coffee, others on their phones. No one expected a moment that would stop the city and touch hearts all around the world. But sometimes, the most unforgettable moments come without warning. Outside the Royal Marsden Hospital, a small group stood waiting. There were whispers, but no one knew for sure. "They're coming," someone said quietly. Prince William and Kate. People had not seen Princess Kate for a long time. Since the shocking news about her illness, she had stayed away from public life. A short video message had been shared weeks ago. She had spoken gently, thanking the world for support and admitting the journey was hard. In that video, her smile was soft, but her eyes showed pain. The world cried with her. Still, no one had seen her in person until now. Outside the hospital, there were no big flags, no media vans, just people. Some brought flowers, others held handwritten signs. "We love you, Kate." Many just came to stand quietly. Among them was a woman named Rose, holding a small yellow rose in her hand. She had lost her sister to cancer. She didn't know Kate personally, but she understood her pain. Suddenly, the air changed. Something in the wind told people to look up. A black car appeared at the edge of the road. It moved slowly, with quiet grace, toward the hospital entrance. People stepped back. Some took out their phones, but no one spoke. No screaming, no cheering, just a silent hope. The car stopped. For a long moment, no one moved. Then, the door opened. Prince William stepped out first. He wore a simple navy coat. His face looked calm, but his eyes were tired. Gave a small nod to the crowd, his hand gently brushing his wedding ring. Then he turned and reached inside the car. And there she was, Princess Kate. She stepped out slowly. She was wearing a soft blue coat that moved gently in the wind. Her face was thinner, her skin pale. But her back was straight, and she held William's hand with strength. When her eyes met the crowd, something shifted. People gasped quietly. Some put hands over their mouths. Others began to cry, not because she looked weak, but because she looked real. Kate gave a small wave. It wasn't big or royal. It was gentle. It's like someone who was saying, "I'm still here." A young girl named Hannah stood near the front, holding her mother's hand. She looked up at Kate and whispered, "She's like an angel." Inside the hospital, the staff stood frozen. Nurses peeked from behind the front desk. Doctors paused their walks. Even patients turned their heads. They had heard the rumors, but seeing her now, walking in with quiet bravery, was something else. She didn't come to speak to the press. She came to visit the children's cancer ward. As she entered the hallway, a nurse named Anna watched her closely. Anna had worked with sick children for 8 years. She had seen joy. She had seen pain. But something about Kate's face, something about the way she held on to William's arm, it stayed with her. They walked together slowly through the halls. Kate stopped at every bed. She knelt beside the children. She asked their names. She smiled when they smiled. And when one child asked, "Are you scared too?" Kate held her hand and said, "Yes, but I try to be strong every day. Just like you." It wasn't a performance. It wasn't for the cameras. It was a mother, a woman, a fighter. When it was time to leave, the children didn't want to let go. One boy gave her a bracelet made of string. Another girl gave her a small drawing of a sun and a heart. Kate held each gift like it was treasure. Outside, the crowd was still waiting. Some had been standing for hours. But when the hospital doors opened again and the couple came out, no one moved. No one made a sound. And then, without saying a word, everyone began to clap. Not loud, not wild, just soft, steady, like a heartbeat. Kate paused for a moment, holding William's hand tighter. Her lips trembled, her eyes filled with tears. She placed her hand on her heart, and then she smiled. It wasn't the smile of a princess. It was the smile of a woman who had been through the fire and was still walking. And in that moment, the whole world felt it. She didn't say much. Didn't need to. She had already said everything by simply showing up. Some moments are quiet, but they change everything. The hospital visit should have been a short one. In and out, kind gesture, a quiet appearance. But no one expected what happened next. Not the staff, not the children, not even William and Kate themselves. Inside the children's cancer ward, time felt like it slowed down. The moment Kate stepped into the room, it was as if the walls themselves stood still. Machines beeped softly, nurses moved gently, and 5 young children stared wide out at the woman who had only existed on screens until today. She looked tired, yes, but she was glowing, not in the usual way, not like a celebrity or a royal. She glowed like someone who had known pain and walked through it. Kate walked to the first bed. A boy named Liam, only 8 years old, sat up straight. He had no hair and wore a blue cap. He smiled nervously. Kate smiled back and sat beside him. "Is this your superhero hat?" she asked. Liam giggled. "Yes, it gives me powers." Kate leaned in closer. "Well, I think it's working." Gross. The room William sat on a tiny chair beside a little girl named Aisha. She was shy at first, but opened up when William showed her a picture of Prince George. "He's cheeky," William whispered. Aisha laughed. The room slowly filled with warmth. It wasn't the kind of happiness that comes from jokes or balloons. It was deeper, gentle, honest. Kate didn't talk about herself. She didn't mention her illness. But her presence spoke louder than words. She knelt beside every bed, held tiny hands, and listened to stories about favorite colors, pets, and dreams. She asked simple questions. She laughed with the children. She cried quietly when a little boy told her, "I want to grow up strong like my dad." The parents stood by the walls, some holding tissues, others holding each other. Many hadn't smiled in weeks. But today, something was different. Today, they saw someone who understood. A mother named Clara watched as Kate spoke to her daughter. Mia. Clara had spent the last 7 months in and out of hospitals. She had seen pity, silence, and sometimes fear from strangers. But not from Kate. "She didn't look away," Clara said later. "She looked into my child's eyes like she really saw her." One of the nurses, Peter, stood in the hallway with a tear running down his cheek. "I've worked here 10 years, he whispered. "I've never seen a moment like this." As the visit continued, something unexpected happened. A group of staff and patients quietly began writing messages on small cards. They didn't plan it, it just happened. One nurse handed Kate a card that read, "Thank you for not hiding." Another note said, "You showed up. That's everything." Kate took the cards and held them to her chest. She didn't say much, just nodded, tears forming again in her eyes. William gently placed his hand on her back. The children began waving their little hands as the couple stood to leave. Mia shouted, "Please come back!" Kate turned and smiled. "I promise," she said softly. Outside the ward, before they left the hospital, Kate and William asked if they could visit the staff break room. At first, the nurses were surprised. Royals didn't usually do that. But Kate and William walked into the room, sat down and simply said, "Thank you for what you do." That was all. No speech, no camera. Just 2 people. Grateful. When they finally left the hospital, the outside crowd had grown. More people had come, not because of announcements or media, but because they had heard by word of mouth that something beautiful was happening. When the hospital doors opened, a soft wind blew. The couple stepped out hand in hand. The crowd didn't cheer. They didn't push forward. Instead, they held up drawings, flowers, and hands pressed over hearts. Kate looked around. Her eyes landed on a little boy holding a sign that read, "My mom beat cancer. You will too." She smiled at him and waved. Then a woman stepped forward, shaking, holding something in her hands. It was a white scarf. "My sister wore this during her treatment," she said. "She would have wanted you to have it." Kate took the scarf slowly, both hands open. She didn't speak. She couldn't. Her voice had broken. But her tears said everything. She placed the scarf over her shoulders, and in that moment, the world didn't see a princess. They saw a human being, a woman, a fighter, who came not to speak above pain, but to sit beside it. And that is what left everyone in tears. They thought the most powerful moment had already passed. But what happened next went deeper. It wasn't loud, it wasn't planned. But it touched hearts in a way that would stay forever. The morning after their quiet visit to the Royal Marsden Hospital, the world was still talking. Not because of speeches or headlines, but because of the way they had shown up. The photos of Kate holding the hands of sick children had gone viral. Her soft wave, her tired but real smile, William's steady support beside her. People felt something in those images, something honest. There was one part of the story no one had seen yet. Kate had left a letter. It wasn't printed or typed. It wasn't planned for the media. It was handwritten, on soft white paper, folded neatly and left in the children's ward where she had visited. The hospital didn't share it immediately. The head nurse found it later, lying gently beside a child's bedside. She read it and cried. The next day, with Kate's permission, they shared the letter with the families and later with the public. But it wasn't the words of a royal. It was the voice of a woman who had felt the same fear, the same pain, the same deep love that every mother in that hospital understood. To the brave little heroes I met yesterday, she wrote, you may not know it yet, but you are teaching the world how to be strong, not by shouting, not by winning, but by waking up every day, fighting battles with smiles, and showing love even when you're tired. To the parents, I saw you. I saw your courage, your tired eyes, your quiet tears. I felt them because I've cried them too. Please know you are not alone. The letter was short but full of heart. It reached people in a way no royal announcement ever had. It was shared in schools, read aloud in homes, printed in newspapers not under royal news but under letters of hope. Back in the hospital, something began to change. Children started to write back. One girl, Ella, only 8 years old, gave a letter to her nurse and said, "Please send this to Princess Kate." In it, she wrote, "You're not just a princess. You're a brave fighter like me. When I feel scared, I will think of your smile." Another boy named Sam made a card out of construction paper. It said, "Don't give up. You make us strong." William, read every letter. So did Kate. Each one brought tears to their eyes. They placed them in a small wooden box Kate kept near her bedside. She called it her box of brave Dot. At the palace, the mood was quiet. William often walked in the garden alone. He would think about the hospital, about the children, about the quiet. Look in Kate's eyes when she came back that day. She had given so much of herself in that short visit. And though she had smiled, he knew how much it had cost her. But Kate had no regrets. "Those children gave me something back," she told him. "They gave me the reason to keep going." That evening, the hospital organized something special. A small candlelight moment. Families gathered just outside the building. No speeches, no media, just light. Each candle was lit in silence. One for the children still fighting, one for the families standing strong, and one for Kate. At that moment, without warning, a woman in the crowd began to sing. Softly, gently. Others joined. It was a lullaby, one that mothers often sang to their sick children. Inside the palace, Kate was watching on the hospital's live stream. She was in her robe, holding a cup of tea. William sat beside her, arm around her shoulders. When the music began, she leaned into him. No words were spoken. None were needed. Outside the hospital, the candles flickered in the wind, but they didn't go out. The light stayed. And for the first time in a long time, it felt like something was healing. Not just Kate, but everyone. Sometimes the most powerful moments are not in the spotlight. They are quiet. They are soft. They are made of small hands, folded letters, and tearful smiles. And in those moments, something magical happens. People stop looking at a crown and start seeing the heart behind it. People thought that day at the hospital was the end of the story. But for Princess Kate, it was just the beginning of something deeper. What started as one quiet visit had become a wave of connection, a chain of love that was growing bigger than anyone expected. It had been 2 weeks since the world saw Kate walk out of that hospital holding William's hand. But her letter, her soft words, and her tears had left a mark on hearts across the world. Everyone was talking about her not as a royal but as a woman who had dared to be honest in the middle of pain. Now, the palace had announced something unexpected. Princess Kate would be delivering a short message, not from a stage, not in front of reporters, just from home. The time came, and the screen lit up. She was sitting on a plain chair. No crown, no perfect lighting. Just her, wearing a soft cream sweater, a small gold necklace around her neck. Hair was tied back. She looked thinner than before, but calm, strong. Her eyes held something gentle, something brave. The camera started rolling. She looked straight into it. "Wasn't sure if I should do this," she began, "but you gave me the strength." There was silence, not even background music. Just her voice, raw and honest. She spoke about her journey again, but not like a public figure, like a person. She spoke about the days she couldn't get out of bed, about the nights she couldn't sleep, the moments her children would ask if she was going to be okay, and she didn't know how to answer. "I don't have all the answers," she said. "But I do know this: being honest doesn't make you weak. It makes you real." She paused. "And in being real, we give each other hope." Then she did something no one expected. She began to read letters, real ones from children in hospitals, from mothers who had lost daughters, from old men who hadn't smiled in months until they heard her speak. "You're not just a princess," one letter read. "You are someone who made me feel seen." Tears rolled down her cheeks, but she didn't wipe them. She let them fall. And at that moment, the world cried with her. People watched from living rooms, from hospital beds, from small villages and big cities. Some held their hands over their mouths. Others reached for tissues, not because they were sad, but because they were touched. Her words didn't just tell a story. They held people. Together, Kate ended with a promise. "I may not be strong every day, but I will keep showing up with honesty, with love, and with the hope that if we walk this path together, none of us have to feel alone." She smiled. A soft, real smile. Then the screen faded to black. But the light she lit that day didn't fade. Outside the palace, people began to gather again. They didn't hold flags. They didn't wear fancy clothes. They brought candles, letters, small paper hearts. One little girl, no older than 5, placed a drawing at the gate. It showed a sun, a flower, and a smiling woman with a crown. Underneath it, she had written, "Thank you for being brave for all of us." Inside the palace, Kate saw the photo online that night. She smiled. She whispered to William, "That's why we keep going." William didn't say anything. He just held her hand and kissed her forehead. That same evening, the royal family quietly lit a candle in one of the palace windows. It wasn't official. It wasn't grand. But people saw it. One light glowing softly in the dark, that candle became a symbol. Hospitals lit candles too. Homes followed. Even schools placed candles in their windows. One by one, across the country, tiny lights began to shine, not for power. Chose to keep walking. Kate didn't fix the world. She didn't try to, but she reminded it of something we sometimes forget, that love, shown quietly, can heal more than we ever know. And that, even in our weakest moments, we can still be someone else's light. That was the moment the Aurels stopped talking and simply felt. That was the moment they cried, not out of fear, but out of deep, shared humanity. That was the moment. They saw her not as royalty, but as one of their own.